Welcome to the TOWTalk podcast. Today is Thursday, August 6th, and I just got back from another Spill the Tea meeting with Town of Wallkill Supervisor Frank DenDanto. These are monthly community meetings where Frank sits down with residents, shares updates of what he's working on, and talks about what the town has accomplished and takes questions directly from the audience. I recorded the entire meeting, so you're going to want to watch the whole thing from start to finish. But before we get started, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when new videos drop and when we go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you're definitely going to want that notification turned on for this Tuesday because Frank DenDanto is going to be a guest on our TOWTalk live stream. He'll be talking about his experience, his vision for the town, and answering your questions live. So I'll put a link in the comments below. Head over there after watching this video, set your reminder, and leave your questions for Frank in advance. Without any further delay, let's go spill some tea.
I'm Frank DenDanto. I'm the supervisor of the town. Thank you very much for coming to my tea. Basically, if you haven't been here before, this is an opportunity to hear a little bit directly from my mouth. No scuttlebutt, no whispers, no little birdies on your shoulder telling you weird things. You're going to hear directly from me what is happening in the town from my perspective and some of my opinions about that, in case those matter to you. And then really, most importantly, some of your opinions back to me. This is an opportunity to also tell me a little bit about what you have going on in your world, so that I can put it on my radar if it's not already on my radar, or more importantly, I can move it up the food chain. Because as I'm sure you're all aware, there's a lot of stuff happening at town hall all of the time. And so it's a little bit of a shell game to try to keep things on the front burner. And it's helpful when I get a little nudge that something's boiling over. I'm not the best cook. That said, let me tell you a little bit about what we've been up to here at Town Hall. If you haven't been catching up with us, we are doing 2 town board meetings every month, which is really exciting for us. It's a growth opportunity for the town to be a little bit more out in public and make some decisions out in public rather than in work sessions. In the past, we used to do a lot of decision making in work sessions. It got some stuff done, but then there was also a lot of opportunity for things to get confusing. And so what we have done specifically is taken most of the decision-making process happens still in work sessions, and where councilmen fall on the spectrum can maybe be discerned based on those conversations at work sessions. But for the most part, resolutions are made during town board meetings. The rare occasion of a warrant coming through on a work session, which are basically opportunities for us to pay bills. Sometimes that needs to happen in the work session for timely sake. But like I said, for the most part, we've moved all of the decision making out into the open, or certainly at least as much as we possibly can. That said, we've been talking a lot about quite a few things. One of the first things that I just want to talk about here today is a little bit about parking in town. It's been a topic of conversation for the better part of a few months, certainly on the Shut Road and Shut Road Extension area. There's been a lot of discussion of individuals parking commercial vehicles on the side of the road or off the road entirely into the grass, in what would be shoulder areas. This is not necessarily an allowable thing, but there's some ambiguity in the town code. And because there's some ambiguity in the town code, we've decided to take a deeper look at what the parking code is for the town. Along with that Shut Road issue is also been brought to our attention, a growing concern in and around the Middletown High School area. So if you live on Fairlawn Avenue, Gardner Avenue, that area, Wisner Avenue, there have been some parking concerns there, with residents and students not necessarily seeing eye to eye on when it's okay to park on the side of the road and when it's not okay to park on the side of the road. And that sort of dovetailed into what we were faced with at the tail end of the winter, beginning part of the spring, where we got some heavy snows. and it made it very complicated for our DPW to plow. So we decided to take both of those two instances and sort of take a deeper look at the parking code. And what we discovered is that while the code does speak to certain things about parking, specifically weight limits and certain areas that are excluded from overnight parking, there are broad gaps in that code that probably could be tightened up. So we have decided to take a closer look at the parking codes in general. We did pass a resolution recently that allowed us a little bit more flexibility during snowstorms, during a declared snow emergency, to allow the town to be able to plow. The town residents are encouraged to move their cars off the road so that the town DPW has a better opportunity of clearing the roads more thoroughly and a smaller opportunity of doing damage to private property by way of clipping your car because it's in a snowbank and we moved the snowbank and inadvertently moved your car. So in an effort to avoid those instances, we did pass a resolution there. But we are thinking that perhaps maybe this deeper dive on the parking in general is a smart idea. So we've gone headlong into that, and the town attorney is now beginning to muddle through the current code and see where that can be tightened up. And if additional language is necessary, then we will look to add additional language. Again, all of this ends up with a public review. So there will be public comment and participation on that during the town board session when and if it ever comes to the town board in its entirety. I suspect that it will. So that's item number one that we've been talking about. Item number two is actually a follow-up on something that we've been talking about for a few months now. Paula Kay, who is our assemblywoman, was kind enough to eke out $10,000 for the town to help the town work through its feral cat problem. That money has finally actually made it to the town. Nice. So we're actually really very excited that that process can continue in earnest. There is a downside to this, and that is that our current animal control officer is out right now on sick leave. He had an incident with a dog that has left him unable to attend work. And it's been an extended period of time. It looks like the incident might have been a little bit more severe than initially thought. So he's going to be out for a little while. So the long and the short of it is we are actively looking for a new animal control officer. We are actually in conversations with the city of Middletown in terms of maybe doing a partnership with them to close the gap. You've heard me say it. I don't know if the mayor has said it or not. I hope he does, but if he doesn't, I'll just feel a little bad about it. We live in symbiosis with the city of Middletown. They are us. We are them. We wrap them around, so everything that they have in their world is in our world and vice versa. So, and as I'm sure most of you know, feral cats aren't really too terribly concerned with boundaries. So, our feral cat problem is their feral cat problem. So the town, the city of Middletown has been amicable to at least entertain the notion of doing at least a limited shared services agreement with the town of Wallkill in so much as to close that gap for us while we hire somebody new. That process can take a little bit of time as it is a civil service position. So there is an exam for it. There's a whole, I see you nodding. It makes me feel like you know this process. There's a process involved, and it's not just we hang a shingle out saying we're looking for somebody, please come in and apply. That's certainly one portion of it, but because it's a municipal position, you have to test for it. The county has a position for it, so you have to kind of go through the county. And in that respect, it slows down the process for us. And in a situation where we're trying to fight critical mass with cats, that can get complicated. So, we're looking to the city of Middletown to maybe have a more robust conversation about closing that gap. That said, the exciting part about this is we got that money, which means the spay and neutering can commence. That will happen through the Middletown Humane Society right now. And that process is out the gate and beginning to unfold. So that's out in the world. Yes.
Are the citizens
That's actually a really good question, and I'm going to defer to town clerk who's joining us today, because she might know that answer to that.
Partner with Tara for the stay and neuter certificates just for felines. It's $25 per resident. We pay 50 to Tara, so it's kind of like a 50-50 split. Just yesterday, I had a call from the folks who own the new Sunoco, Crystal, Ocean Turnpike and 211. And there are 5, well, there's a mother and 4 small cats there. So we did, normally it's 2 per resident per year, but I made an executive decision.
Rock on.
That they could purchase 5, so that they can at least get them fixed so that there'll be more adopted. They're able to handle them. They're not real feral. But I think that might be part of what you may design when we get the money, that we could have residents.
I think so, and I think it's an absolute win all the way around because you know who's in your neighborhood cat-wise. So yeah.
I missed that.
You'll get it.
I'll
fill it out at the end.
I give them $25. You come to us, you pay us $25, and we'll give you a certificate. You make an appointment with Tara, and we'll leave you.
There you go.
That's a lot there. What's fun? What's the matter? One of the things that is, this is one of those things that it's good to know. If you got the cat and pick it in, you have to be responsible for it for 24 hours. Once they do the surgery, somebody needs to keep an eye on that to make sure that it gets through the surgery done.
Yeah,
That's
we
correct.
do
Yeah.
that a lot.
So it's a big responsibility. I would imagine it's part of the reason why a good chunk of folks sort of just take a hands-off approach. What I would say, and I'm an animal lover, so I will tell you that I may be an outlier in this conversation. I'd take on the 24-hour babysitting. It's not that big a deal. They sit in a box. They're relatively sedated for the most part. And by the time they're no longer sedated, it's time to release them anyway. So you might be out of can. Huh?
You just it's good weather. You just put a blanket over the cage, and the next day you open it up.
Right. So there you have it. So that's actually out the door, and we're excited about that. The big thing that I'm sure most of you heard about is that the town board had a conversation about term limits, and we were able to get term limits on the ballot for November. And again, I just want to say, for point of record, the town board did not pass term limits. We did not vote on term limits. What we did was give the voter the opportunity to decide. I myself, a lifelong center of the road kind of person, have been hearing the term limit conversation for a very long time. And I'm going to tell you, I got tired of hearing that there's nothing we can do about it. So I saw an opportunity to perhaps put together some language so that the town of Wallkill can decide. And if we are successful in this, then perhaps maybe we can speak up to the state and talk to the state a little bit about term limits and maybe how successful or unsuccessful they are for us. What I can tell you is this, you now have the opportunity. It will be a ballot item. So please, in November, check the back of the ballot. There will be a ballot item for term limits for the town of Wallkill, for councilman and supervisor positions. So please pay attention to that in November. It's a total of 8 years in any one seat, 16 for a combined seat if you take a councilman seat and a supervisor seat together.
Right.
In other words, you go from councilman to supervisor after 8 years. So you serve 8 years as councilman, and then you can serve 8 years as a supervisor. You can't go. There's no back and forth. No, yeah. Once you get to 16, you're done. That's all there is. There is no more. If you want to be a career politician, find yourself a different line, perhaps maybe at the state or the county, but you're done here at the town. The exercise from my perspective is this. If we are successful in setting term limits here, what we are doing is we are opening up an opportunity to broaden the leadership pool. Because one thing that I will say that is pretty clear to me is that the leadership pool gets small quick and can stay small. And the exercise is to allow it to stay broad, which means that if you have a committee seat on one of the parties, then you have a little bit of work to do because you have to make sure that you're cultivating candidates. And that honestly isn't so hard when I look at all your faces and say, well, you're willing to show up here to hear me talk. So maybe you're willing to give up a couple hours on a Monday, or I'm not sure when the Republicans do their meetings, but I think it's like Wednesday or Tuesday. But once a month, you go to a party situation and you hear and work for your party and you cultivate that leadership style ground up. And that will help keep our town fresh. It will create a conduit of continuity. And more importantly, it limits the opportunities for people who get complacent in the chair. Because the two things I can tell you from experience is this: complacency in the chair and complacency from voters allows corruption to occur. And the big rub, I think we can all agree, is corruption. It's your tax dollars. The people who are managing your tax dollars are the electeds, and they should not be given as many opportunities to be silly with your money as we give them. And I myself, is part of the reason why I'm sitting here now, is that I felt like perhaps maybe we weren't being smart with our cash. Turns out I was right. And on that item, I wish I wasn't. But I can say that certainly for a number of years, the town of Wallkill has not been very focused on how to manage itself in an appropriate way, how to govern the town in an appropriate way to manage the taxpayers' money. So, which is why we're in the pickle that we're in, which is why I had to make the ask that I needed to make. Thankfully, that was a successful ask. I will tell you, I'd shared this a little bit in my last tea. For those who might think that somehow I have this beautiful face and that it's worth $4 million, it is in fact not the case. I did actually have to jump through a number of hoops, and each one of those hoops had a number of accountants and lawyers attached to them all the way around the state area, both in the Assembly and the Senate and the governor's office and the Speaker of the House's office or Speaker of the Assembly's office, as well as Ways and Means. So each one of those individuals had an accountant. Each one of those individuals had a lawyer. Each one of those individuals went through the town budget. Each one of those individuals validated the fact that the town is, in fact, upside down right now, according to our budget lines for 2026, which means, again, just so those of you who might not understand what that means, we are spending way more money than we are making, and we have no savings to fall back on. And in the process of losing that savings, we have lost our bond rating, which means we cannot borrow money. So the best we can hope for, Sergeant Pons, please close your ears, is to go down to the corner and ask Uncle Vinny if he'll give us some cash, because that's just how this is going to have to shake out for us if we have to ask. Thankfully, we did not. We were able to ask Aunt Kathy and Uncle James and Aunt Paula, and they helped us out instead. And so the town actually has a lifeline to get through to the end of the year. Now, again, stressing that finishes 26. That gets us to the end of 26. So what does that mean for 27? It means we sharpen our pencils even more. The town has to, if it's going to be fiscally conservative, yes, I said that word, Mr. Vanilla, fiscally conservative, and I consider myself a fiscal conservative. And yes, I said that out loud. If we're going to be fiscally conservative, we can only spend the money that we know we're going to make. In other words, if I have a job and I'm getting a paycheck and I know what that monthly paycheck is or weekly paycheck is, I can only spend the money in that paycheck. I shouldn't really spend any money outside that paycheck, because if I do, then I go into debt. And we're not in a position to be able to take on debt. So I have to be smart, which means I can only spend the amount of money that I have in my fixed ratables. That is your tax dollars, the actual money that you are paying to have a piece of property in this town. Not the taxes that we make on sales tax. Not that. Not the fees for services. Not that. Your actual tax dollars. So what our goal is to draw down the town's operating costs below the fixed ratable cap. That's the goal for 27. I think we can get there. We're actually well on our way. We're making our first pass now. The first round of budgeting has finished. which means now that I have gone through personally with each department and sat with them, walked through line by line, each line of their budgets. In some instances, some of those lines were nice and appropriate from year to year. In other instances, there were tens of thousands of dollars in lines that made no sense whatsoever and weren't connected to anything. So we made some adjustments. We also realized that perhaps some of those lines were actually whittled back so far that the town itself was cutting its nose to spite its face and not being able to maintain its own operating expense. In other words, we pushed off buying a new piece of equipment that was on the edge of failing outright in the spirit of saving money, when in fact, had we just spent a couple extra dollars, we wouldn't have had to worry about that piece of equipment because we deferred the maintenance of that piece of equipment to a point where the piece of equipment failed. What we are discovering, specifically in the water and sewer world, is that the town has been doing not as much as it probably should have in terms of maintaining water lines. Some of that has been evident to you guys if you're paying attention to how many water leaks we've had here at town. We've had a few. We currently have one ongoing right now up at the golf course. It is shut-off valves that are actually just outdated, and the sweating mechanism to fix the cutoff to the two pipes has just aged out and broke. That's just a sheer non-maintenance issue. That's going to cost the town an additional $10,000 that wasn't budgeted for. So you'll probably be seeing that in the next couple of days in the resolutions or in the warrants, so that we can get that fixed and we can stop leaking water out in underneath the patio at the golf course. These are items that the town really needs to be forward thinking about. And much of my conversations over the last week and a half, 2 weeks have been about forward thinking. Yes. Where's Luce? Yesterday?
She stepped out.
Was it yesterday that I was at the Chamber of Commerce? Yes, yesterday. Thank you. It all bleeds in together. Just one big day. Yesterday, we had an opportunity to host the Orange County Chamber of Commerce here. They were wonderful. Heather Bell was here, and we had the former senator, state senator, whose name is escaping me at this moment. His name is Dave Carlucci. Thank you very much. David Carlucci was here. He acted as the moderator. We had wonderful attendance. The MTA was here. Port Authority was here. Randall Airport was here. We had quite a few heavy hitters. And really the whole conversation was, what does the town of Wallkill have to offer Orange County entrepreneurs in terms of long-term thinking? And so really, I spent most of my day yesterday, much of my past week, talking about long-term thinking. The term limits conversation, that was a long-term thinking point for me. It's thinking past myself sitting in the chair. I'm not going to sit in the chair forever. I have no plans to sit in the chair forever. I think that that has to be a thing that we should address. And to that end, the goal for me is to set up the town so that it functions well from a governance standpoint, using your tax dollars well in a functioning way and being thoughtful about how that goes, not just beyond next year, not just beyond this voter cycle, because there'll be hard conversations to have about tax caps. That'll happen on around October. And you may not like me quite as much because I'm probably going to say that we might need to go above the tax cap. But the simple reality is that the town has deferred that tax cap move for over a decade. And the town is not alone. Most municipalities have deferred the tax cap move. And now we're seeing a huge backlash in operational costs that have gone through the roof. Thank you to our current international political situation. So we at the town have to be mindful of this, and we have to set up mechanisms that are going to protect the taxpayer, protect that mechanism, and make sure that these things continue to function even in hard times. And the only way to do that is to be forward thinking. And to my point yesterday, the town is trying to be forward thinking in its economic growth. So you've heard a little bit about Walmart. So one of the last items I have on my list to talk about is Walmart. They were in front of planning last night. There was actually, it went much smoother than I thought it would go. To be honest, because it's Walmart and it's a large distribution center, and everybody that I have come across seems to have fairly strong opinions about large boxes of buildings in the town. Here's what I can say is different about Walmart. This particular project is Walmart's own project. In other words, we're not building a warehouse space and hoping that somebody rents it. They themselves are going to occupy it. And it is not a warehouse. It is a distribution hub, which means it's going to be loaded up with all kinds of mechanical robotic equipment to the tune of roughly $1.6 billion on a total project cost, which honestly, probably about 100 million of that might possibly be the property. So that's leaving a lot of extra money into infrastructure that Walmart is dumping into this project. So 1.6, good that you asked. That's actually going off of exit 116, all the way at the edge of town, right up against the Mamakating border. So the only way off of 17K. So 17K going down towards Bullville, setback off the road is, I think, if memory serves, is 125 acres of total space, usable space that sits up along the kill. And they're looking to put in 1 million square feet worth of distribution space and parking area. That's going to be on the left side. If you're on 17K, shooting down towards Bullville on the left-hand side. Currently, right now, many of you may know of it as the dirt bike track for the town of Wallkill, because there is a road that goes up in there, and it has been used for many, many years as an off-road site for kids to get up there with their four-wheelers, ATVs, and dirt bikes. Complicated area to get fire rescue up to. Bloomingburg hates it every time they go out there for a fire call because somebody's come off their bike or ATV. But it's been used a lot. Almost nobody knows it's there. The only thing that gives it away is a small chain link fence. And of course, that cutout road, which is not really a legal road. Somebody just basically cut down a bunch of trees and then drove up, but you'll see the ruts. And that's all you're going to see. There will be almost a half of an acre worth of wooded area before they even get to the site. The only way the site is visible is if you are coming down 1786, coming from Monticello, and you look to your left. You can see a field, the small part of a field. That will be the location. That will be the only location that will be visible.
The cross street, I'm sorry.
The cross street is the, well, there isn't a cross street. It's literally right off of 17K. So the next,
Right at the exit.
yeah, the next landmark is the exit. So exit 116, you know where Twin Cone is? Twin Cone, 116. Do you know where Twin Cone is? So just up the road from Twin Cone, you're going to go underneath the overpass. You're going to continue to go up another 300 feet. The road that I'm talking about, the cutout road, is on the left-hand side. The chain link fence is another 100 feet up from that. And like I said, it's all back in the woods. It will all exist back in the woods. So the only way to see it will be to come down from Monticello during the fall and winter. You'll be able to see it because the trees will be off, the leaves will be off the trees. Otherwise, if you're heading up towards Monticello, you got to crane your neck all the way to the right and not drive off the road as you're trying to see it, as the road arcs to the left and goes up the hill. So it's out of sight. It's off the beaten path. It's right next to an exit. It is in an area zoned for warehouses. So all things actually align. They've owned the property for the better part of 20 years, actually longer. They are back to develop it with roughly the same. It's actually a slightly smaller footprint than the original footprint that they presented to the town 20 years ago, which they tabled and then sat on forever. They decided that this development was a much smarter approach for their Northeast distribution hub than the one that they were considering, which was a lot in Lee, Massachusetts, just over the border, a little bit further up, 87. They didn't own that property. They own this one. So, yes.
So just in general, the Senator's group is discussing pilot, pilots and bringing in what data centers,
Yes.
things like that are bringing in, because town of Walkill is such. I don't know. I'm a resident,
Yep.
obviously. I work here. I live here. How is that affecting our tax base? Because we have always been such a commercial area, which helps to keep our taxes low.
Yes.
Because of the flip right now, the way we're so kind of off center,
talking about waking up.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, no. So this is a really great question. And of course, it would make everybody a little nervous because large projects like this like to get pilots. For those of you who don't know what a pilot is, it's a payment in lieu of taxes. Quite literally, the town board or the assessor, generally it's the town board, will determine, or the IDA, the town IDA, will determine that a project might have more merit in it that outweighs the tax base or tax revenue that it gives to the town. So by offsetting the taxes for a certain period of time, and generally speaking for the town of Wallkill, it's not any longer than 5 years. Also in the world of the IDA, although this is not cast in stone, it's generally at market rate. So your pilot is at market rate. And really what the town of Wallkill IDA does is it offsets your tax revenue. So you don't pay your full tax bill the first year. You ultimately pay a portion of it, and then it gets rolled up within a 5-year period. And so by the time you get to 5 years, you've grandfathered and you pay the full balance, the balloon payment, and then you're on the tax rolls.
Have they been paying over the last 20 years at the open?
They have been paying, absolutely. And here's what I can tell you from yesterday's meeting. Steve Gross tells me that they have not come to the county IDA. And I can tell you they have not come to the town IDA, which means this 1.6 billion with a B dollar project is not looking right now for tax abatement of any kind. Now, they pay the same rate. They pay a commercial rate, which is different than the residential rate. It's a little heavier than the residential rate. What I'm going to tell you is figure out what your residential rate is. You'll figure out the percentage. I just gave you the cost of their project. You do the math. You figure out whether or not they're worth having in town. I will tell you, they solve our tax problem almost instantaneously on their own and then some. So what's that? They're asking for an aggressive build cycle. So they're looking to break ground as early as October, and they're talking about a 48-month build.
What kind of jobs?
This is, what's that? This would be engineering robotics jobs. So puller jobs. So people who would operate robotic pullers, $60,000, $70,000 entry level, and then upwards of $100,000 for manager level. And at 1,000 people, and they, like I said, they told me 1,500. I said, I'll take 1,000. At 1,000 jobs, that's substantial. And here's the other thing that I think is really important that I brought up yesterday during the chamber's breakfast. That's 1,000 jobs for kids who would otherwise go somewhere else to get work. That means it's 1,000 people that will stick around in the area, maybe have families, maybe buy property, maybe begin their lives here rather than grow up and say, hey, mom, dad, peace out. I'm hopeful and thankful that that opportunity exists for the town. And I want to see that opportunity expand for the town from a pragmatic place because it solves my tax problem. It solves my displacement problem in terms of kids and population control in the area in terms of growth. It solves a lot of problems. And right now, they look to be a good partner. So I think in the spirit of partnership, we should be welcoming to them. And I think that if we are welcoming to them, it ultimately pays out for us in the long term because their property values aren't going to go down. Those robotic systems are only going to get upgraded. And if distribution, as we have seen it flourish with Amazon, both in Montgomery and Wawayanda now, if that's any indication of what we can expect in terms of retail sales, Wallkill has a long, illustrious history of earning off the back of retail commercial development. This is an opportunity for us to be forward-thinking in that prospect with as little impact on the town as possible. This is pulling cars off the roads, not putting them on the roads. So this, I think, is a good thing. The other thing, yes, you had a question, Jude.
Well, it's a selfish question. I wouldn't mind going from Senate. When I moved there many years ago, occasionally saw a car. But now it's like 18 wheelers all the time. Easily kind of day.
That's a little surprising, but okay.
Big, heavy.
Huh.
I mean, all the time from our end down to the other end. So, I'm thinking like distribution center there.
So earlier today, I mentioned this thing called parking. So road control currently is inside code control, which is inside town control. And if traffic patterns become less than desirable, we can address that. And if that's an issue right now that you're seeing has already grown over the last few years, then that's a thing that maybe the town should take up in terms of identifying how much traffic there is. Why is it there? Is it just through traffic? Is it somebody trying to cut through to not get the bridge construction that might be happening? Where is it coming from? And where is it going?
I would see at least 5 of it. And I can tell you they're Pepsi, they're Poland, they're there's a guy with a white bag but a red truck. Yesterday there was, there's a lot of them. Coke goes through there. And I'm talking big truck and Amazon. Amazon takes that Coke.
So the Amazon delivery trucks, the bigger delivery truck, not the 18-wheel. Really? So we can address that. And I think we maybe should address that. We'll have to do a little research. I will drag in planning and I will drag in the code enforcement folks and we'll talk a little bit to the chief about speed limits and weight on the macadam. I'll bring in the highway superintendent and we'll talk about loads. That might be a thing that we're going to have to address in terms of loads. Here's what we can do. We can shape and do shape on, in many instances, we do shape the traffic patterns by, adjusting load limits, weight limits on trucks, whether or not commercial vehicles are allowed or not allowed. This is an ongoing conversation with the parking component. It can be easily expanded to take on 18-wheelers. What I really don't want to see is Goshen Turnpike turn into a cutoff area. There's a little bit of a concern about that on Mud Mills because Mud Mills is an offshoot for the Golden Triangle down here. And while the primary traffic pattern is down Tower and out onto 211, the secondary traffic pattern is down Mud Mills and then down Wisner and then down 211. And again, Popcorners is right on in town of Wallkill, but right on the border of city of Middletown, right at where Highland Avenue meets up with Mud Mills. So, these are things that we are mindful of. That's a harder conversation, but the Goshen Turnpike conversation, since we are starting that discussion now, is something that we can speak to. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm unaware of Amazon wanting to do anything other than get on and off exit 116 and get on 17 going in either direction.
You mean Walmart?
Oh, thank you. Walmart. Yes. Thank you for the correction. Yeah, Walmart. I will look into that. Thank you for that heads up. Yes.
So, conversation. I heard robotic engineer stuff.
Yes.
I thought I heard that. You think what's the difference?
Sadly, not anymore.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say that my brother was in this community college, and when they have these sort of centers come up around the communities, they ask them to come up with a sort of listen class at the community center, where kids can come from high school, they go recruit them come to the college, the doc, and learn these skills.
Yeah.
So that when you get out and go to this place with your 2-year degree, you get
That absolutely is part of the conversation. And I can tell you that the Walmart folks are speaking to Orange County Community College. They're speaking to the county about how to dovetail the syllabus within the community college's programming now and for the future. And that's exactly the type of folks. And yes, I joke, but my kids are not kids anymore, really, but they will be to me because they're 20. But 20-year-olds know how to operate robots and drones and all the rest of that. And they do it all the time in their sleep. And it's a really decent entry-level job to have. And then, of course, you can go in a number of different directions. You can go into the maintenance direction, actually fabricate and build the robotic armatures, or into the programming and coding side of things, or just into the general operation on the line, which is, mechanically operating on the line. The arm pullers are making sure that the code is scanned and properly and that the item is pulled properly. There's a bunch of different aspects to it. You're absolutely right. I can tell you that those conversations have already started. Yeah.
Last I heard, had the whole robotics.
They do. And they're in this discussion as well. So I think, like I said, the way I shake it out, a win for the town, because I come to these discussions, as a consultant, as a former business owner who runs an executive level circles. I can tell you, point of fact, that most of my thinking financially comes from that place, comes from an entrepreneurial place. And as a consultant, having my own consultancy for the better part of 20 years, I can tell you that if you think pragmatically through that, you can see the earn potential for the town. You can see the earn potential in way of jobs for the town. You can see how these items pay out. Now, that's not to be short-sighted and not mindful about the pitfalls, because there are pitfalls. And so we have to be mindful of them. Case in point, the traffic on roads that maybe we don't want traffic on. So how do we shape that conversation? We have to be sustainable. And this comes back to my initial conversation about sustainability at the town. We have to be sustainable about our economic growth as well. Somebody asked me yesterday morning, well, what about data centers? There's a moratorium right now, but there might not be a moratorium in a year from now. What happens then? What is the town of Wallkill's position? I said, well, I can't really tell you what the town of Wallkill's position is. I can tell you what my position is. And from my position, from an economic position, from an entrepreneurial position, I think data centers are a boondoggle. Why do I say that? Because the data being constructed for AI right now will be outdated in 2 years, which means all the infrastructure I put into that data center is going to be outdated in 3 years. Full stop. So whatever happens in that data center has to change in 3 years, which means that either I'm into a constant and perpetual growth situation. So from an entrepreneurial place, I'm now dealing with a business development strategy that has them constantly at the table looking for handouts in the way of pilots, because it's a subsidized bubble, or it goes bust inside of 5 years because the tech is gone and I no longer need a large building because we've shifted to quantum computing and I can do it all in the size of a unit the size of that chair.
Yeah.
No, there's one job in a data center. There's one job. They run 3 shifts. So 3 jobs, because they do run 24 hours. There is a data center that doesn't actually have a 3rd shift position. They just set it on autopilot and walk away and hope the alarms don't go off. But that's a reality. And so they're not what are they bringing to the table? They're bringing nothing to the table other than
pollution to the table.
What?
Pollution.
They bring pollution to the table. Well, yes, because what they would want from the town of Wallkill, and I brought this up yesterday, they would want our water, because we sit on the river and they would want the water from the river to cool the center. Well, that's a problem because our river isn't very deep, and most of the town's water, both the municipal water as well as much of your well water, comes from the Loomis soil that is sandy and perks very quickly and also gives up water really quickly. And so you've heard a lot of us, Mr. Johnson is notorious for this one. He likes to talk about the water usage in the town. He's spot on every single time. I love listening to him. It's like being back in science class, but he's 100% right. That is a very shallow well, which means that just a week or 2 of dry weather and those wells get into trouble. And a month of dry weather and those wells can go dry, which means the town goes dry. Now, why would I think it would be a good idea to put something on my water source that isn't giving people water, that's going to just do nothing for the town other than give me a tax footprint rateable? I just as soon have another Amazon, honestly, because at least they are bringing jobs to the table, or they're bringing turnover in terms of overall rateable base. They use less water. They have less overall impact on the environment, full stop. The other good thing, just want to come back to Walmart for a second. When Walmart first showed up in my office, hi, we're here, we're back. What do you think? And they braced themselves for, the crazy liberal to go, no, Walmart. I said, can you give me a LEED accredited building? Does everybody know what a LEED accredited building is? So in the building world, there's an accreditation you can get. It's from Green Builders Association. It's a federally funded program. And what that does is it certifies that your building is either carbon neutral or carbon negative, and it has building criteria. How much insulation needs to be in the building? How much solar power are you using? How much impact do you have on the sewer system? Do you have a porous macadam rather than an unporous macadam where the water just runs off into pools? It sinks through the macadam and goes into the water table. Do you have a green roof? All of these items are components in the Green Builders checkoff list of silver accreditation, which is the bare minimum. We're trying, but we're really not trying that hard, to platinum accreditation, which is this building actually gives back to the community. It's paying back in the way of tax credits on power usage because it's feeding power back, because it's got a green roof, which means it's taking all the water that it's using and it's putting it into a cistern. So all the toilets inside the building flush off that cistern, which is fed by rainwater, not by well water or municipal water. It's got solar panels. The entire operation of the building is fully self-sustained off the solar panels and battery backup. So the building only goes online for 3 hours in the middle of the night from midnight to 3 a.m. It's the only time it sucks power. Every other time it's working off of its own power. It has zero environmental impact. That's platinum rating. What's that?
That's my house.
Your house could do that. You absolutely can build your house to do that. You absolutely can. It's expensive. And what I expected Walmart to say to me is, that's expensive and we're not going to do that. They didn't say that at all. They said, that's all you need. I was like,
should
yeah.
ask them more.
I said, I did think that. I did actually think, I set the bar too low. But I also said, well, you're going to have a robust conversation with the fire department people. And they said, we have fire truck money. That's not a problem. So, the moral of the story being is that we want to be forward thinking on all of this. Tell the chief I said hi. Yeah, that's good. Tell the chief I said hi. Yes.
You gave that.
I'm giving it to everybody I can. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, yeah. I'm expecting a little bit of opposition because I came to this chair as an environmental advocate. I was a member of Sullivan Environment and a member of the Bashakil Area Association. Prior to that, I was a member of the North Country Environmental Protection Group, Sierra North Country. So I know what it is to advocate on behalf of trees and how to try to keep the water safe and keep migratory patterns safe and all of that part of the discussion. What I can tell you in earnest is this. NIMBYs exist. They are real. They will come out because they don't like your project, because it's a big box or because it's the word Walmart or Amazon or whatever. They'll show up. If you have talking points to speak back to them, it's difficult for them to stay in the fight because you're taking the wind out of their sails. If you say, well, we have no migratory impact because there aren't windmills here, so that's not an issue. The roof is green, so that's not an issue. We're not impacting the water table because we're drawing off of rainwater to operate the toilets. That's not an issue. We're solar powered 80% of the operation of the plant, so we're not pulling fossil fuels. When we are pulling power, we're specifically pulling it off National Grid, which is out of Niagara. So we're hoping that, in the world of worlds, our power is as clean as it can be, according to the state of New York. So we're lowering the impact statements on all of these things. But that doesn't mean that somebody somewhere, maybe just down the road from that site, is going to be like, I don't want to see Walmart trucks at exit 116 because that's kind of a bummer for me. To which I have to appreciate that. I've lived in my neighborhood. Many of you have lived in your neighborhoods for a long period of time, and you might not want to see Walmart trucks. And I have to respect that. I have to weigh that against the value that it brings to the town. And that's the tough part of this job, is how to advocate on that behalf. So I don't expect a lot of people to come out against this particular project, because I think from an environmental standpoint and from an economic standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to the town, especially given the town's current financial situation. That said, I respect and encourage anyone who has a dissenting opinion to come out, because maybe they're thinking about something we haven't thought about. I will tell you, in reference to the best situations, these battery storage situations that we've also talked about a little bit at Town Hall and a little bit here, I've been approached by the Sierra Club, specifically on behalf of Carson Power, because Carson Power convinced the Sierra Club that there's not that much impact to the project on Shutt Road, which is right next to Wallkill Living Center, and tried to lobby on behalf of Carson Power that the environmental impact is minimal to the town, and so we should be pro battery storage. And I said to that individual, on whole, the town is pro battery storage. We actually greenlit a project from Carson that is going on over on the other side of what used to be the ball factory. It's just not the right location if there is a problem in the future. God forbid there is a problem, because there is no putting out those fires and they have to burn themselves out. That can be days of smoke. This individual was very quick to say there are no studies that say smoke is bad. That smoke is bad. To which I can say to you, as a firsthand individual currently being treated for severe asthma brought on by 9/11 because I was on the pile for a week digging and carrying little bags, I was told that air was safe too.
Yeah.
It is not. It was not. Smoke is toxic. Period. The end. Now, I appreciate it goes away after a couple days, and that's true. That is true. It does go away after a couple days. In the immediate surrounding area, the studies are still unclear as to how much heavy metal fallout there is at 100 feet and at 300 feet and at 700 feet. And in the water table, by the way, because there's a stream right there, how those heavy metals affect the environment in that respect. So what I did say to the nice Sierra guy was, respectfully, I disagree with you on the smoke. I agree with you on every other front. And in any other instance, if the building sat farther away from the nice old folks home that's 7 stories high, I would think maybe differently. But I really feel like if there's an issue, that building is getting smoke for as long as that burn is going on. And that's the deal breaker for me. It might be a different deal breaker for the other councilmen, but universally, all the councilmen seem to echo this same sentiment. So that said, NIMBYs happen. They come out. I get it. I totally understand. But I think that the value outweighs the impact in this instance. But I'm always open to suggestions. That's really all I had on my list for today. I'd like to open up the floor for questions. Anything I talked about, anything I didn't talk about that you want to bring up?
Well, I have a concern where I live.
Okay.
We have, my sister and I have sat down on our driveway. And where we live is very, how should I say? There's 4 stop signs. People don't stop.
Aha.
So,
Where are you?
Foreman Road and Reservoir Road.
Thank you.
Oh, I know where that is. Yeah.
Very
So do I.
dangerous. They do 50.
There's like a hill there
or right
too.
there.
Sergeant Pons, can you just take a note? Thank you very much. So we're going to take a look at Borman and Reservoir. And what we'll do is, if it merits it, which it probably will, we'll put the speed trailer out first. And then what the chief likes to do, and Sergeant Pons can correct me, is he'll do a directed patrol. And then if it's really something that we cannot get managed by either one of those two efforts, then DPW comes into the conversation and we look at how to maybe slow down the traffic coming into that 4-way.
Okay. I have another question. Keystone Road coming off from the highway, you go into Keystone Road, and I think the crossroad is Van Buren,
Van
Van Burenville, yeah.
and there's a house right there at the side between the Kiso, and then you're gonna make a right into Van Buren Road.
Yes.
This the Leno, the person who owns the house, has big trees, and you want to make the left.
I know
Yeah.
exactly the house you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already on our
It's
radar.
very dangerous. My sister had a
Yes. I'm sorry to hear
and,
that.
and I don't know if I should go and talk to the owner to trim. I don't know.
I don't, here's what I'm going to tell you about that. I wouldn't here. If you have what you feel is a good relationship where if you don't know the owner, I would be like, maybe not. Because people are funny. But what I can say is we've had the building code inspector out there. They've been noticed on both the yard and the bushes. They have roughly 30 days to remedy. If they don't remedy, then we cite them. If they don't remedy after they're cited, they get a ticket, and then we can actually remedy and then charge them back for it. But there's a process that goes on that allows them an opportunity to correct that problem. Again, we're not in the business of forcing anybody to do anything they don't want to do with their property, but they do need to keep it safe, and they need to keep it passable so that people can see. So it's on our radar. We're looking at it. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I have another issue with traffic not stopping at stop signs. Is North Roman and Dundee.
Okay.
Freeway stop there.
I know that. Stop too.
Count the people. From my kitchen window, when the trees are like they are now, I can look right there. I can count 10 or 15.
And they do the
They
rolling.
don't even slow down.
Oh, that's a little concerned. Like a rolling stop, I kind of get because you can see both ways and you're like, I'm free. But
Time of year.
yeah.
But anyway, coming down, they come off Glen Lomond, and they just make a turn like they didn't even exist.
noted. Sergeant Pons is going to be like, I should have stayed down at building B. Yeah, that's why he's here. He's looking for work, guys. Help the guy out. Yeah.
Pine Bush and Goshen. And why is Goshen there? They go around probably apartments, and then they have to go down Scotchtown Lane or whatever it is over there. If they're familiar.
And I just want to be clear, the buses are also doing
Oh
this.
yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And I called the Pine Bush School District before.
How long ago did you call them?
Oh, 1 year or so ago.
Okay,
Yeah. Nothing recent. No.
All right.
Usually they're great, but all of a sudden it seems like
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I got a question. When you're ready.
It's
All
like
right. Yes.
in the highway.
Yeah.
Mr. Dan, I have another question. When the Department of Public Works is closed, and if you see a tree down the road, who you supposed to call, the state or the town of Wallkill?
Call us. Call 911. Our dispatchers will pick up the phone. Yep. I call 911. And they're going to ask you what's your emergency. You say it's a non-emergency. There's a tree down in the middle of the road. They're going to say, where's the address? Where are you at? You give them a description. They'll yell out to any of the patrolmen and we'll send out a car. And if they can move the tree, that is great. If they need to call out DPW, they have the resources to do that. They can get on the horn. DPW, the highway superintendent's on 24/7. That's part of the reason why we get the cars with the lights. There's always a question about why are there cars with lights? So we can get to places in emergencies. That's the whole point. So we'll come out and we'll take care of it. So if you see something like that,
That's
call.
happened to us
Yeah.
recently, last week, right? And they give you around, I don't know what call, and they say they don't take care of it. I think they say the state. And I say the state, but the state is not available.
So
Is it 211 by the state or the town of Wallkill?
211 is a state road. So in that respect, so you call us, we'll call the appropriate people, we'll call state DOT and let them know that there's a tree down. If it's a big situation that the officer can't manage yanking out of the road on their own or with an extra set of hands, then they'll call our DPW. We'll step in. We help each other all the time, help the county out. We just got done helping the county pave a road over here. down by Dynarex. So,
So if it's the 211, it's the state,
yes,
but call you.
call our number and then
Okay.
we'll get it to the appropriate authority. Yeah, for sure. It goes to the town dispatch. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes to the closest dispatch.
The only time it ends up at the county is if we're overwhelmed. If our dispatcher is involved in something, then it gets routed. And Sergeant Pons can talk to you a little bit more about that afterwards if you have questions. But there's tech involved. It rings a couple times and it gets routed down to the county. The county goes to mutual aid. They'll send a state trooper out or a sheriff out if we can't get to it. They'll check in with us. They'll call Sergeant Pons is a sergeant on duty right now, so they'd call him and say what's going on, and he say, "Well, we're locked up on a domestic. Can you go and do this thing?" So, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't know your job, but yes,
One of them is doing something with 211 because people making a U-turn going over that meridian.
yes. This is the third time I've heard that, which is shocking to me because that's not
Where
that's
is
not
this?
small.
I brought it up in the police community meeting, and the chief said yes, he had seen people doing it, but we have to put some little divider there because
We're having a conversation right now with state DOT. It's been an interesting growth pattern here with us and the state because of our connection with them helping us out, and so we have to be tender about our demands. But they've been amicable to listen to us, and part of that conversation is, well, what can we do to beautify 211 because 211 frequently doesn't get mowed or doesn't get weed whacked, and so the center area kind of grows up, and then they'll come by once in June. And then they'll come by once in October.
Yeah.
And, by that point, there are trees. So we're having discussions about that. And I imagine if it came up at community council and the chief is aware of it, we're going to discuss whether or not maybe we put planter boxes in the center aisles or something to make it a little bit more complicated to get over those
this is why I'm bringing it
dividers.
here, because I like to put something down. It's killed.
Sure.
And the other thing is 419 East Main, they did that, put that parking lot and parking lot
Yes.
there. And that black stuff that goes around it, they have not removed that. And I've noticed in these construction sites like that, they leave it and then it just blows all over the place. They never remove it.
Yeah, that's a project-based situation, which I can lean in on planning for. We have town engineers that manage that. Those people are supposed to remove that. That's a silt barrier, that plastic. It's specifically there for erosion. So if there's a water event, it doesn't wash out the road or undermine the road in any way. And I have noticed as well that it's easier just to leave it there. But the reality in those kind of situations is this. We have in escrow in our coffers money that the developer has provided to us on the off chance that we have to deal with it. So if it's an issue that's been left, then it's just a matter of we haven't had a chance to get to it. We'll get to it. I just need to follow up with the planning board, make sure that that's the case. We have engineers that track that. So if they're still building something or it's still in construction phase, I use air quotes, then they would still be required to have that silt fencing there. But
that parking lot,
okay,
people are parking in it now.
sure. I'll check in on that.
The building maintenance, but I figured I knew this meeting was coming in. I'll just bring it up to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Denise, you had a question.
Yeah, I got a question. So I just want to remind, it looks like you guys were working on it at the intersection of Amy Lane and Ross Lane, that three-way.
Yes.
So it looks like there was a hole there, and then you guys looks like they kind of dug it up and left it unpaved. It's just still gravel.
Okay.
With cones all around and lights, and it's been there for a while, and it's right at the corner, so it's sort of in a
weird spot.
In a weird spot, and I'm just wondering what the status is.
Good question. I would have to check in with DPW specifically with water and sewer, because generally what happens is if it's dug up like that and left unfinished, it's because there is a water tie-in that's either a problem or is looking to be replaced. And it may be that instead of putting macadam down to dig it back up again, they just cone it off. The expectation is that that's fairly quick. But if it's been there for a while, maybe there's
a few weeks
differing of opinion about what quick is. So that's okay. That's what I I'm here to do. I'm here to help them understand that quick means quick. So I can have that looked at too.
And I want, because I walked, I go up Amy Lane from Marie to Amy, going up that
Mhm.
hill. About halfway up that hill where there's a water drain, there's another hole. It's kind of like, it almost looks like just like a little sinkhole about that yay big.
That we're aware of. Yeah.
Oh, you do know about it.
Yes.
Okay.
That we're aware of. There, as I had said earlier about deferred maintenance, there's been a lot of stormwater management deferred maintenance. These are runoff areas that the town has used for stormwater runoff and have either been outdated because they were put in place back in 1970 and it goes to a cesspool, which it's not supposed to go to, or a cistern, which is like just a hole with rocks in it, or that it goes into the stormwater management system, which are the pipes that go ultimately back either into a pond or out somewhere else in the town back to the water treatment plant. But we're aware of a number of those instances. That's really what I was talking about in terms of the water leaks that we are experiencing, some of the washout that we're experiencing. Also, the other thing to make note of, I think that is notable, is that rain is in order. We've had some rain events that have been rather strong.
Yeah.
And so we're experiencing washout where we didn't normally see washout. Sadly, in our current budget, we are not budgeted for these kind of repairs. So in instances where a Band-Aid can be put on, we'll probably put a Band-Aid on in hopes to readdress it in 27. In instances where that's not possible, which would be the area that you were pointing out that was dug up, we'll have to address it immediately. There'll be a budget transfer and we'll do what we need to do to pull from contingency to pay for those repairs. That said, just be mindful that those situations are happening. There's some undermining that's occurring, some sinkholes that are occurring because of that water runoff. If you see something like that, please contact the town. Let our DPW know that you have seen it. There's a hole in the macadam and I can hear water running down in there. That's important for us to know. We might already know about it. Chances are we do. We're generally pretty good about picking up on that stuff, but stuff pops up all the time.
Yeah.
All right.
I have another question. They paved my street,
Right.
but I think they forgot to put the division, the yellow line.
They're probably going to come back and paint that. Yeah. They'll do all the paving first and then they do all the striping.
My house. That's my.
That seems weird. But I will ask about that.
You want to tell them?
I will ask about that. There's also a world where striping may have come off the radar because it wasn't necessary, depending on because of the traffic on the road and the width of the road. That also speaks to how the road is striped. And in some instances, not in all, in fact, generally it goes in the opposite direction that we go from not having a stripe to putting stripes in. This might be an instance. Well, you wouldn't. You'd have to ask the town. So, and it is something that, again, one of these, it was on the docket to do in 25, just before the snow came. Then it got cold, and the paint can only be put down when it's 50 degrees or higher. And so, and it didn't get higher than 50 degrees.
They haven't put no yellow line there. That's interesting. You said that it might not need
It's entirely possible. If it had a yellow line, it's likely going to get a yellow line. The only reason why it wouldn't perk its way up to the top priority list is because since there hasn't been a line, there hasn't been a problem. And so it may not be a problem. That said, we'll take a look at it. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. All right. I have time for one more question. I'm going to go back here. I'll do two.
I'd like to address the trees that are being overgrown on Tower Drive along the apartments.
Yes.
You have to roll your car out far enough to be able to see it.
If you will, I can ask them to
cars
to
aren't
discuss
coming
what it is.
in the direction to try to get yourself around it. They have to be trimmed.
I will speak to DPW, the highway superintendent, and we'll see what we can do about that. That's generally private property, and so that would be on the.
I know.
Yeah. So, but we'll take a look at it, and if it really is a travel hazard, then we'll address it with the landowner.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can answer this question or not, but can you tell us anything about any of the audits and what's
Yes.
going on?
I can tell you about the audits really quickly. I will do the 30-second elevator pitch on the audits. Here's what I can tell you. New York State Comptroller's office has left the building. They are done for now. They have done a complete audit of the accounting department's processes and procedures. That process, along with a dovetail of the forensic audit that is ongoing with Akura, is going to come together sometime on or around the end of September. Akura should be done with its first pass on or around the beginning of September. They will talk to one another. They will decide what the plan of action is going to be. And moving forward, they will strategize together about which direction we are going to go. I can tell you that we have discovered on both audits substantial issues. So that those are real. And of course, we knew there were substantial issues because of the money, but we've found substantial operational issues. The Akura folks have left the internal workings, the internal hardware and software for the systems that we have here in town and then on our cloud. They will very likely begin to expand their investigation. That will likely include the DA's office. So that's what I can tell you there. They are also, along with the New York State Comptroller's office, sharing notes with the DA's office and with Letitia James's office on the investigation of the $400,000 theft and how that occurred, and who's got culpability where. So, and there's some questions about that because there are some gray areas about that. I can tell you that both of those things are ongoing, but they are beginning to slow themselves down. I expect draft write-ups from both the New York State Comptroller's office and Akura certainly by the end of September. So I will be able to say definitively what direction we're going in. Here's what I'm going to tell you, generally speaking, about the world of accounting and fraud, is that it's a very tricky world. And there's a lot of baseline that is required. And it is way easy to determine that fraud occurred. It is quite a bit harder to determine who did the fraud. And what I will tell you is that the town has been in this particular financial situation, certainly prior to my first arrival. So prior to 2020, the town's financial situation was in as dire shape as it is currently getting itself fixed from. Now, you might ask yourself, well, how did we get here? Like, if it was so bad. The town had a tremendous savings account and in the way of fund balance. So where the town would draw short, it could backfill on fund balance. And in most instances, that wasn't really noticed because the budgeting process, and not to get into the weeds, but we're in the weeds, the budgeting process is actually, it has been up until this year, it hasn't been above board. The New York, so New York State has guidelines to how municipalities are supposed to budget. You're supposed to be very honest with how much money you take in, how much money you spend. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is part of the reason for the term limit conversation. The longer you're in the business, the longer you sit in a chair, the easier it is to know where the gaps are, and the easier it is to maybe put money where it might not get noticed. And as I alluded to before, what we have discovered in the course of this budgeting process is that there are large sums of money in lines that haven't been used for years. There are theoretically haven't had a reason to be used for years. The exercise right now is to go back and see how many line item transfers have been out of those lines and where those line item transfers have gone to. And that's the Akura folks. Those guys are digging into that. The New York State Comptroller's office can unequivocally verify we have been putting money in places but we should not have been putting money. We have been misrepresenting how much money the town has actually had. We have been misrepresenting how much money the town actually makes. We have been doing that consistently and methodically, so as a practice, since at least 2019, and probably going back earlier than that. So we're retooling all of that. So to your point, we'll see. September is going to be telling. That's what I'm going to tell you. All right. Any other questions? Because I have a couple of quick announcements to make really fast, just to let you all know about what's going on here. Fireworks. We had to pull the plug on the fireworks because it was ridiculously hot. Hopefully it won't be ridiculously hot again. We're going to redo that. Friday, August 28th, the fireworks. Second verse, same as the first. We're going to do it over at the golf course. So come out. We might start just a hair earlier because of the sunset, but the start time is the same. Everything is the same. We're just doing it on Friday the 28th. So please come visit us for that.
You're going to advertise, right?
What's that?
You're going to advertise?
I am going to advertise. It's going to be advertised. This is part of it. That's me. This is the very first solve. I've said it now a couple times. Said it at night out as well, too.
Okay.
Let's see. Town of Wallkill seniors, every Thursday, just remember, some of you guys might actually go to this. Every Thursday, the Town of Wallkill seniors have bingo. And they're doing a day trip to Forestburg Playhouse. So they got some stuff going on. There's just a $2 cover. So you might want to check it out. They're at 8 West Warren Drive, like I said, every Thursday. So check them out.
What time?
Let's see, every Thursday, what time? 12:15, 12:15 sharp. 12:15 sharp.
They like you to come early.
There you go. All right. Back to school barbecue is happening here at Fowler Field. Middletown High School is doing a back to school barbecue. It's a community partnership that's happening. If you don't have anything going on August 26th from 4 to 7 p.m., go over to Fowler Field and check that out. So there's that's going on here. Let's see what else. Oh, senior independent.
Sorry, Mr.
Yes.
Dan.
Yeah.
You
can just call me Frank.
Not Wallkill. Middletown has the night out with the police.
Yes, we
That was
we did
last
that.
night, right?
Fine.
Yeah, we did not do it combined. No, we did our own. They did theirs. It was both on Tuesday. So we had that opportunity unfold already. So you missed that if you didn't get out there. So, but we'll do it again next year. Senior Independence Program, helping give you a warm feeling, support our older neighbors. This is an opportunity for you to act as an assistant to help get people to and from volunteer, to and from appointments, or get them to groceries, or maybe pick up the groceries. Just do a wellness check on your buddies. This is actually really helpful. So if you've got stuff that you can do, you should probably try to do it. Join me again September 8th for another tea. Yep, September 8th. Come out. Hopefully, I will announce it. It will be on the LED board. We'll make lots of noise about that. Got a couple quick other items here. The last of which is the American Latino Coalition Hudson Valley Fiesta Latina is happening August 29th as well, 11 a.m. Is that right? To 9 p.m. here. And that is at River's Edge Ranch at 525 Stony Ford Road. For those of you that's down over on this where am I? That direction of the world. And that's going to be an all-day fun fest. Music, food, just a lot of excitement. That this is going to be really good.
Is that horse farm on the right? Is it?
I think that might be, yes.
Yeah, when you're going around the curve.
Yeah, I think so.
Like Mark Ford is on the left, and there's a horse farm that was there.
Honestly, I'm not sure if that's the location, but it is in that neck of the, is it? Yeah. Okay, then that's it. I don't know why I don't know that as that. Did it have a name change at some point in time?
It's been sold.
That's probably why. But if you're not doing anything, check this out. This is actually going to be a lot of fun. Here's something for the camera. For anybody, we have these QRL codes. If you want to know what's going on in town, snap a photo of this QRL code, put it in your phone, and then you just snap on the QRL. It'll take you to our website. It'll let you know what's going on. Nope. No accounts necessary. It goes directly. I know this is the thing. I was talking about this in tech, and you got to be on top of the curve, and these kids are on top of the curve. But that you don't need that. It'll go directly to the website. You'll be able to see a laundry list of the stuff that we're doing. That's pretty much all I got. So I want to thank you very much for coming out here again, and I'll see you at the next one if I don't see you at an event before. September 8th, but don't forget fireworks and the fiesta and all the other stuff. So thank you very much.
Thank